Wrangell-St. Elias National Park and Preserve is located in southern Alaska and encompasses 13,175,799 acres of land. The area was designated as a national monument under the Antiquities Act on December 1st, 1978, and as a national park under the Alaska National Interest Lands Conservation Act in 1980. The park has likely been inhabited since 1000 AD when the Otna people settled along the Copper River. The Eyak people settled on the Gulf of Alaska at the mouth of the Copper River, and a handful of Upper Tanana people settled on the Nabesna and Chisana rivers, and the Tlingit people settled along the coast, primarily, of course, at the Yakutat Bay. I feel like I've already said this information before in another video. The first Europeans to explore the area were Russian fur traders, who were interested not only in furs, but also in the copper deposits along the Copper River, and began sending expeditions to explore the area. And apparently the native people were not too happy about this, as almost all of these expeditions were killed, which I don't know if this was a common occurrence, because I haven't heard about this in any of the other Alaskan parks, but maybe these particular Russians were just being too nosy, or maybe the native people of the region were better able to attack them because they had copper to make stronger weapons. A trading post known as Copper Fort was eventually established near Tyrol in 1819, but Russian exploration ended in 1848 when yet another expedition that was going towards the Yukon River was killed by the Otna. During the Klondike Gold Rush, some gold was discovered in the Copper River, and shortly afterwards, copper was found near the Kennecott Glacier. Over 4.5 million tons of copper and silver ore were extracted in total. In addition to metals, oil, natural gas, petroleum, and coal were found in the region. The park has a subarctic climate with a short summer season and long winters that can get as cold as negative 37.8 degrees Fahrenheit. Plate tectonics form the St. Elias mountain range for which the park is named, and the highest point in this range and in the entire park is the summit of Mount St. Elias at 18,008 feet above sea level. This makes it the fourth tallest mountain in North America. The other namesake mountain of the park is Mount Wrangell, which is an active volcano. And much of the park is covered by the Bagley Icefield, which is the second largest ice field in North America and contains the largest nonpolar glacier on the continent. The Bering Glacier, which covers 1,900 square miles and ends at Beatus Lake, which empties into the Gulf of Alaska. Sport hunting is allowed in the preserve, but not in the park. So out of all the Alaskan national parks, this one seems to have some of the most exciting history. I kind of just skimmed over it, but if you're interested, I would definitely recommend that you check it out to see it in more detail. I would especially like to know what was going on with the very anti-Russian explorer sentiment here, and if that was common in other parts of Alaska as well. Kenai Fjords National Park, which is located on the Kenai Peninsula in southern Alaska, covers 669,984 acres of land. It was designated under the Antiquities Act on December 1st, 1978, as a national monument to preserve the Harding Icefields and under the Alaska National Interest Lands Conservation Act in 1980 as a national park. The Harding Icefield is one of the largest icefields in the United States and contains around 38 glaciers, including the largest, Bear Glacier. As you might guess, the fjords for which the park is named were carved by some of these glaciers. There's not much archaeological evidence of any permanent human settlements in the area. There are a few gold mines and some evidence of sites inhabited between the 10th and 19th centuries AD, but many earlier sediments are likely now submerged under the water due to rising sea levels and coastal subsidence, most notably an earthquake around 1170 AD that caused the shoreline to drop by almost 6 feet. There is one road in the park which leads to the Exit Glacier, one of the park's most popular destinations. The rest of the park is usually accessed by foot via hiking trails or by boat or airplane. Wildlife in the park consists of a variety of birds, including owls, jays, magpies, larks, swallows, and warblers, as well as black and brown bears, marmots, mountain goats, moose, whales, sea otters, harbor seals, and ice worms. Ice worms can be found in glacial ice and in gravelly areas on the banks of rivers. They're able to live their entire life cycle in below freezing temperatures, and I think that they are super creepy. If you like things that look parasitic, I highly recommend that you look them up. The park has a subarctic climate, meaning cool summers and year-round precipitation, with an average annual extreme minimum temperature of negative 20.3 degrees Fahrenheit. For some reason, this park really reminds me of the Lord of the Rings movies. Those movies were filmed mostly in New Zealand, though. I'll eventually do some watercolors of New Zealand because I think it's really beautiful. It would also be interesting to visit New Zealand. I've heard that some people there follow Pastafarianism, which is the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster. Yes, you heard me correctly. That is a thing. And in 2001, Jedi was the second largest religion. This next national park is much, much warmer, and in fact, it can get as warm as 1,600 degrees Fahrenheit in some places. I am, of course, talking about the lava flows in the Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. By the way, I did a bit of research on the pronunciation of Hawaii because I've heard people say like Hawaii and Hawaii. The two pronunciations that seem to be accepted as correct, though, are Hawaii and Hawaii. And there seems to be some debate on which one is more correct, but I'm going to use the Hawaii pronunciation because that's the phonetic spelling and it's what I'm most familiar with. As always, I will do my best with the pronunciation, and I apologize in advance for anything that I get wrong. Feel free to correct me in the comment section. With that said, Hawaii Volcanoes National Park is located on the island of Hawaii. In traditional Hawaiian culture, Kilauea was considered the home of the goddess Pele, and people go to the Haleema Uma'u crater at the summit to leave offerings to the goddess. In 1790, an unusually large and explosive eruption occurred at the volcano, and there are actually a series of footprints left during this eruption that are imprinted in the ground that can still be seen today. At this time, there were battles going on in the area, and there were a group of warriors at the summit when this occurred. The footprints were originally thought to have been left by those warriors, but research has attributed them not to the warriors who were actually at the summit and got the full force of the eruption and all the toxic gases spewing out of the volcano, but by women and children who were in the area. The thought is that the warriors probably would not have gotten the chance to leave any footprints, which is pretty sad. Then in 1823, the volcano was visited by the missionaries William Ellis and Asa Thurston, and in the 1840s became a tourist attraction. It was established on August 1st of 1916 as Hawaii National Park, but it was eventually split into Haleakala National Park and Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. In 1980, it was declared an International Biosphere Reserve, and in 1987, a World Heritage Site. The park encompasses 2 active volcanoes, including Kilauea and Mauna Loa, and 505.35 square miles of land. There are several distinctive climates in the park, including tropical rainforests and the Ka'u Desert, which is not actually a true desert because it does get over 39 inches of rainfall each year, and true deserts generally have 10 inches or less annually. But in this area, sulfur dioxide from the volcanic vents creates acid rain that can have a pH as low as 3.4, and even this water evaporates quickly from the highly permeable tephra created by the volcanic eruptions. So the landscape looks almost completely barren. It looks like the surface of the moon from the pictures I've seen. The park was closed on May 11th, 2018 due to eruptions, ground collapses, toxic ash, along with earthquakes and subsequent road damage. In August of the same year, the eruptions stopped, allowing most of the park to open back up as early as September. There were no more eruptions until December 20th of 2020 when Kilauea erupted. So this was a deceptively difficult watercolor painting to do. To keep the painting from looking like a giant purple and red blob, I decided to leave some white space in the picture, and I don't really know how that turned out, but it was fun to do. I've wanted to visit Hawaii for a very long time. I think when I was in kindergarten or maybe first grade, I got really interested in it. I thought it was so cool, but then as I got older, I realized that I didn't love the idea of being on a chain of islands literally created from volcanic eruptions, where the volcanoes are still active today. Of course, there are ways to predict volcanic eruptions by studying seismic activity and whatnot, but still, I think I'll stay out of the ring of fire. I'm definitely going to be continuing this series of paintings, and I assure you that from now on, there will be no more Alaskan parks. As much as I've enjoyed those paintings, I have to say that it will be refreshing to see some different places and research some national parks without subarctic climates or insanely low temperatures. I also am looking forward to not having to say Alaska National Interest Lands Conservation Act anymore. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Bye!